Good evening and welcome to this week's Black Mental Health is Black Health. I'm your host, Bronwyn Lucas, and Miss B, the Black Couch Therapist. And we're here tonight to talk about hair, something that's near and dear to those in our community. What are we going to do about our hair? Is it just hair? We'll find out. But you know what we do before we get started? We take in some deep breaths just to have that woosah at the end of the day. So let's do it. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. One more. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Just that woosah at the end of the day, and sometimes we need that woosah at the end of the day. And it was that day for me. Not a bad day, just a busy day. Needed
Same
that.
here.
So how was that breathing was good for you?
Yes. Very good.
Awesome. So we have an amazing guest tonight. And as I always do, you get to introduce yourself and tell us something cool about you.
So I am Christine Hill. I am currently a Doctor of Business Administration student at Prairie View A&M University. Something cool about me that a lot of people, if you've known me for a while, you know, but I've been out of it for almost 10 years now. But I did bodybuilding for 4 or 5 years, and it was for the most part, self-taught. So
awesome. That is cool. So you competed?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yes, win any big meets or what are they called?
They're called competition. So I did place top 5 in 5 of the 9 that I did, but I never went to nationals or anything. 1, it was too expensive. 2, it wasn't that deep for me. It was just something to do, keep me healthy. Mm-hmm. So
that is cool. That is very cool. Well, tonight we are going to be talking about hair. Hair is still a controversial issue in our community. It has been for years. Mm-hmm. It can be divisive. It can be unifying. It can be confusing. Yes. And I know you are working on your doctorate and it has to do with hair?
Yes, my dissertation topic is on hair bias in the workplace.
Woo! That sounds deep. So is it, people talk about, that's not a professional hairstyle. Mm-hmm. What is professional,
Nobody can answer the question when you ask them.
Mm-hmm. So with that, we can think of hair bias. Is there really such a thing? And if so, tell us about hair bias.
Hair bias is a thing. It's emerging in research, even though court cases date back to the 1870s. So the definition of hair bias is any discrimination based on the denial of education or employment based on kinky, curly hair or whatever texture your hair is or any associated style. And if we want to go deeper, race-based hair bias is when the style includes braids, locks, bantu knots, anything that's associated to a specific race.
How prevalent is that?
More prevalent than what people realize. So I will say hair bias in one of the first recorded court cases was not from a Black person. It was from a Chinese man who was arrested in California for just a 5-day jail sentence back in the 1870s. And he had a long ponytail. His head was shaved except for the back, and it was a long ponytail that's traditional to their culture. And a jailer cut it off of him because for jail rules. But those rules were only being applied to Chinese inmates. And he won his court case on the basis of hair discrimination.
Wow. So hair discrimination going back to the 1800s. I wouldn't have thought of that. But yeah,
I wouldn't either.
So, when we think about hair bias and professionalism, well, just look at the whole professionalism part of it. How does that play out in the workplace that your hair isn't professional enough?
Well, research shows that Eurocentric hair or straight hair, we're going to use Eurocentric or straight hair, is perceived as more professional. We can look at the history of our country and see why. Because our hair, we were told our Afrocentric hair was unattractive, and it was a way to keep us down on ourselves. So it's changing. It's slowly changing, but overall, straight hair is what's perceived to be professional hair.
Mm-hmm. In workplaces where you've been, how have you seen that? Have you ever, I see you have locks, have you ever experienced any hair bias?
I have at a previous employer years ago, not really on the style. Well, originally was on the style because I used to wear my hair straight and I stopped putting heat on it. And it was, I like your hair better straight. But I don't think people were being vicious with that. Then when I locked my hair, when I first started doing that, they were like, well, why would you do that? And because I want to. And I had one supervisor, she was the sweetest lady ever, but she really did like my Afro puff. And she was just so depressed. But there were other people that were asking me, if you don't think that it's going to look messy or unprofessional, there's this perception that locks are considered to be messy. Nothing is messy about my hair. And then it came down to when I like to do, as you can see, I like to do the creative colors. It's time for a new one, clearly, but I like to do the creative colors. And I colored my hair like a deep purple. You could tell it was purple, but it wasn't vibrant yet until I started washing it. And I had a director of the department walk up and just ask, you don't think your hair color is unprofessional? And there was a non-Black young lady sitting next to me who had split color hair. And both of us had the most confused look on our face, because we both were thinking the same thing. And I said, well, her hair is in split colors. And she said, oh, she's expressing herself. And I just simply asked her, what's the difference?
Did she have an answer?
No. She knew what the answer was.
Mm-hmm.
But no, she did not have an answer to give me.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes in, there's this perception of us of your hair, or I absolutely hate this question. Can I touch it? No.
Oh gosh, yes.
Don't touch me. And it's, well, I actually want to see what it feels like. It feels like hair. That's what it feels like. It feels like hair. It just don't feel like your hair, but it feels like hair.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's one. Yeah. Oh, you're looking at it. No, you can't. Don't touch my hair and don't touch me.
Yes, because that's assault.
Don't touch any part of my body. That is my
unwanted touch is assault.
Mm-hmm. That is definitely my thing. Before we talk about just self-esteem, let me ask you, can men be impacted by hair bias? Because we think of women, but how does that impact men?
There's court cases that I'm looking at now of men who have worked for mail carriers or anywhere else who might have had locks and they're forced to cover their hair because they want a clean-cut look. Well, how do you know locks can't be a clean-cut look? Mm-hmm. But absolutely, men with braids, locks, afros, even sometimes clean cut, they can be victims of hair bias as well. It's not just limited to women. It's not just limited, as we saw from the first recorded court case. Right. It's not just limited to Black people. And with the younger generations coming in, you're seeing more non-Black, white, Hispanic young people getting comments towards their hair color because they like the brighter colors. But if they're educated and qualified, what does it matter?
Mm-hmm. And it does go into, I guess, the whole idea of what do we consider professionalism? Yes. And why does your hair color or hairstyle impact your ability to work? Because it doesn't. It's only a distraction if the other person, in my opinion, is just closed-minded enough. Because if I'm really doing what I have to do, I don't care what color you're.
And if you're looking at my hair, you're not doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. If my hair can distract you that quick, you've got some other issues going on.
You probably aren't qualified for your role.
Right. So, when I think about this and, we look at mental health and we look at everything from the view of mental health. But before I ask the question, I'll just ask you, how do you think your hair bias or just your hairstyle can impact your mental health?
I will say after that comment and the other comments I've received, I went into a new job that didn't care. They didn't even notice my hair. But it was in the back of my head of that was actually one of the questions I asked in my interview, is my hair color going to be a problem? And theirs was a different type of confusion of why would it be? Mm-hmm. So it did not affect my confidence in myself. But when I go into work, it's in the back of my head. Is somebody going to say something to me about my hair? Is somebody going to have an issue with the color? Am I going to have to? My biggest thing was, am I going to have to defend my hair? Because I really don't have the energy. Mm-hmm. But in my personal experience, that takes away from my focus at work that's living in the back of my head. So where I should be 100% focused on my work, I'm 85 or 90%, only 90%. That's not giving my all, and that opens the door for mistakes.
And just because of hair. And when you think about children forming self-esteem, there have been things like a 5-year-old being told that your hair is a distraction.
Yes, a
How do
child
you
in
feel?
elementary school sent home because her hair naturally, as it grows out of her head, is a distraction.
And how was that handled?
The mother sued, and I believe the mother. I'd have to go back and look, but I believe the mother won. But it's well, actually, let me see. I know there was a lawsuit that came of it. I don't want to give the results. I don't remember the results, but still, I can only think about that child's self-esteem of, I'm in elementary school, I got my cute little Afro puff, and now you're telling me I'm a distraction and I didn't even do anything but sit here.
And when you think about it, it doesn't matter if they won $10 million.
Right.
Her self-esteem can't be bought.
In her hair. And she's probably one of those ones that's going to consider, and if you straighten your hair, if you get a relaxer, I don't care, but if it's not something you want to do, but now you're considering doing it because, am I a distraction? That's not the way you should make the decision on what to do with your hair.
Right. And that definitely will play into that. And even deeper than just the hair, if my hair isn't a distraction, if my hair is not good enough, because that's part of that implied in that whole.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Your hair is not professional enough.
Normal, from the child. If it's a distraction, then it's not normal. So then what does that say about me?
Right.
So when we demean a child for their hair, especially that young, what does it say about who you are and how people accept you? What does it say about how you see yourself?
Right. Yeah, I think of mine. I chose not to think that I was a distraction, but I could see how I could start to think about it. Like, is my hair a problem? Because why else would I ask that question in an interview? Is my hair a problem? Because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking it is. But at that young age, that's your formative years where you're really starting to get your personality and develop your own image. I personally stopped relaxing my hair at 16, but I started doing it because all the other girls had straight hair. After a while, I was like, well, my hair is soft. It's not even staying straight with the relaxer. Why am I keep doing these chemicals? But it is something in that young that you start to think about of, why is my hair so different and why am I being punished for my hair as it naturally is?
And when you think about punishment, there have been cases within the last decade, even 5 years, I guess, where school personnel has literally cut someone's hair.
And
that
they're being told to leave school, or they can't. There's been high school cases where young men have been told to leave school because they have locks and their locks don't comply with school policies. Now, in those cases, the court said that they don't have jurisdiction. Well, there's been a split. Some courts say it's racial discrimination, but then there's some courts say that we don't have the jurisdiction over school policy. You do. If it's a public school and you're getting the public funding, you have jurisdiction.
I can remember years ago, I worked at a school, an alternative school. I've worked at a couple in my lifetime. And I worked at one where they had a policy where girls couldn't wear braids because it wasn't a traditional hairstyle. Yet it was a thing at the time where Hispanic boys were shaving off all of this and only had a mohawk, but the mohawk was long hair. That's not a traditional hairstyle.
No, it's not.
But these kids were, you're a young African-American female, you're already in alternative schools and all of this, so you don't want to fight the system. So one little girl had just gotten her hair done and it was all pretty and she had to take it out before she could start. I went and got my hair braided that weekend because I knew she was coming back Monday. And I told her, this is for you.
Yeah.
Really should have fought it. But I can understand her parents, look, we don't want to fight the school system. We're already here. And I knew that. So I went and got my hair braided.
I would have done the same thing. Probably would have added color in there too.
And I was bold with my hair.
Because you ain't going to get rid of me.
Yeah.
But so it's ridiculous. And like I said, some of these work policies, like there's one court case in particular that I can think of where the employee was written up and ultimately terminated for refusing to get rid of her braids. And the braids, I think she was in housekeeping. What do the braids have to do with housekeeping?
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm seeing is a lot of these court cases, decisions are coming down to mutable versus immutable. A mutable style or a mutable feature of our hair is a style that we can change.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I chose to get braids, but that's not my natural hair texture. I chose to do locks. Actually, locks are starting to get shifted over into that immutable category, which an immutable category is you can't change the texture of your hair.
Right.
So we're looking at afros or straight hair or wavy hair, whatever the natural, whatever's natural to your hair is a immutable quality. You can't change it. But mutable, I can take the braids out. I can take off a wig.
Right.
I can take a weave out. That's what most of these court cases decisions have come down to. Is it mutable or immutable? Because they're saying immutable is any race can wear it, so it applies to all race. So it's not race based. But it's still hair discrimination because it's discrimination based on a hairstyle, which I personally believe that's where some of these court cases, I'm not an attorney, but some of them, because they put the race-based hair discrimination in it, that's why they lose. But with the way the Crown Act is written, it's just flat out hair discrimination. If it's not stopping somebody from doing their job, doing their schoolwork, doing whatever, what does it matter?
Yeah, what does it matter?
If it's washed, if it's neat, what does it matter?
It's true. And, I can think back to years ago, one of my supervisors went to Baylor, I guess, probably in the 70s or so. I'm guessing it was a while back, but they were not allowed to wear afros. We're not allowed in their doctoral program. And this is, long before this, but that's how long this bias has been in place.
It's just now getting called out because Dove did it. The Dove company did a survey of 2,000 women before they started to back the Crown Act. Now, the Crown Act hasn't been accepted on a federal level from what I can see, but I do know Texas became the 21st state in 2023 to adopt the Crown Act. Now, if you read through the Crown Act, it prevents discrimination, but there's no repercussions.
Right.
So you still have to, the burden of proof is still on the victim, which isn't what it should be.
And since it's not enforceable, in a sense, it's kind of empty. It is good to have there. It's a step, but it's not the final step.
Right.
I want to take a few moments to look at hair discrimination within our community. And by that, I mean natural versus process, weave, wig. We have our own bias within our community.
Yes, we do.
And so and even that has to do, we can have our idea of what's professional or not. It's not just the other side, it's us as well. What are your thoughts about that? How we look at hair within our community?
One of the studies I read found that Black women, just as much as white women, thought straight hair looked more professional. That was of the group they surveyed. I don't think that represents all of us, but I absolutely do think that we produce hair bias in our own community. If somebody what I've seen personally is mainly people who choose to wear weaves and wigs. The first thing out their mouth is, "Oh, they ain't got no hair." You don't know what's under their wig. And it ain't got nothing to do with you if you ain't paying for it.
Right.
If it's not on your head, what does it have to do with anything? But there's a lot of those comments, or she's not Black if she don't wear natural hair, or straight hair looks better than afro. I don't want to look messy. So you see the comments within our own community, and we do it publicly, sadly. We do it publicly. And if we're doing it, why wouldn't they join in on it?
Right. And that's the thing. When we go back and look at where does that come from in our community, it is totally based on racism. It is based on the bias that is placed in us that, if you're white, you're right. If you're white, you're right. If you're brown, stick around. If you're Black, get back. And that was the whole thing. But it applies to the hair too. So the whiter you are, the better are. And so your hair being straight hair, you're more acceptable.
But I also think that stems from career, because women, as you said, like at Baylor, she couldn't wear an afro. She'd have to straighten her hair. So we started straightening our hair to get the good jobs.
Mm-hmm.
then that mentality flowed into every other
Mm-hmm.
area of our lives. So now we work at the time, we were conditioned to think, no, straight hair really does look better because it gets me the good job.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's changing, thankfully. You have women just embracing their hair for what they want to do. I said, I don't care if you put a relaxer in your hair. It's going to burn a little bit, I think, but it burned my scalp. That's why I stopped doing it. But I don't care if you choose to wear braids all the time. I really don't. But I do think my personal opinion is that it started with, that's how we started getting good jobs, was doing what others want us to do, wearing the Eurocentric straight hair or the weaves or whatever. So that must be what's right. That gets me the good money. That's what's right. And that's the good money don't mean what's right, especially if it's something you don't want to wear.
Right. And even thinking back as far back as the 50s when you'd straighten your hair and the men would put the lye, which is really just a perm, all this to straighten your hair because straight hair was beauty.
Yes.
And that negates who you are. And if you think about it, who was taunted as our first Black millionaire? Madam C.J. Walker. And what did she get us to do?
She got us to straighten our hair.
Yes. So
but at the time, that's all she had. So
I'm not demeaning her. I'm just saying.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying but even now, she did what she needed to do. But that just goes to show what the systematic racism that's happened. Mm-hmm. That's what was instilled in her. Now she did. First Black millionaire. I'm with it. Do what you need to do. But she also gave us the hot comb. She gave it to us in natural ways. She gave us the hot comb, the flat iron. She gave us all of those. But again, it comes down to that career field has told us what looks good, so we think it looks good in everything.
Mm-hmm. And that's it. And thinking about that look good, going back to the whole idea of your mental health, how you perceive yourself impacts your mental health. So if you perceive what is naturally yours, and like I say, it is not demeaning the weave, the straight hair, any of that, but when you can feel good about what's yours or feel what's yours is less than, that's where the problem comes in, because part of that, a twinge of that, is kind of some self-hatred, because what I am naturally is not good enough. What I am naturally is not pretty enough. I am not professional enough. Like you say, a lot of this started with the workplace. If I'm going to make it in the workplace, I've got to look a certain way. So how I normally would look is not good enough. And then it morphs into that just becomes your norm. That we don't even think about how it got started. It's just the way it is, and that's just more beautiful. It's just more professional. It becomes an accepted idea that we live with without really looking at, where it started.
Yeah, and it's like I said, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But I'm all about you look good, you feel good, but you have to do what makes you feel good. So if you don't want straight hair and you're only doing it because you think that's the professional look and that's not going to get you in, that's what's going to get you in the door, when you get there, you're still going to be miserable because you can't show up as your authentic self.
Now, one thing I do want to add to that, we have to look at recently, it has come out how unhealthy the products are. And I was reading up on this recently. And that the companies knew this. There's so many carcinogens in the straightening chemicals, in the weave, in the all the different things we do. We look at African Americans having a higher incidence of every kind of cancer or so many health diseases. And what we put on our body affects what's in our body.
Because your pores are open. If you think it's not absorbing that, your pores are open.
Right, and it's going into your head through your body, and that's something we have to consider. Again, it is not saying don't go do it. I have my bias to that, but we need to understand what we're doing to our bodies. If we do have higher cancer rates, higher rates of everything, we have to start looking at what can we do to stop. What are some products we need to use differently?
Yes,
there are now some. There is a company that does. Organic hair for weave. So there are different things out there. It's expensive.
Yes.
But,
and the human hair is expensive too. But there's, there's ways that I've seen to wash the hair in like apple
Yeah.
cider vinegar that people
Mhm.
ignored, and now they're waking up to it. But again, like you said, these companies knew it, and they knew we didn't know, and they capitalized on it.
And now we're putting it out there more, like you say. So I'm one who will go from, if you will look at my videos and my daily threads, you never know what kind of hair I'm going to. It's not going to be straight, I will tell you that.
Right.
But it's short, it's long, it's this, it's that. And I do. So I just went back to this because I'm like, okay, I want to grow up my hair. I want to lock. And I started locking. I didn't do it right. Like I say, commitment to a hairstyle way too much.
See, and I'm lazy. That's why I lock. I don't want to do nothing.
And this was my like, because the way growing it out is hard. I had to comb hair every day. That was way too much. It was about to get cut off. So I am one who will go and soak it in the vinegar. And I'm gonna do. You tell me it needs to soak 30 minutes. I'm gonna soak it for an hour.
Right.
I'm not gonna blow dry it because I feel like heat. So I'm gonna do it the day before. Soak it. Then soak it in hot water, then lay it out and let it dry.
Yep. Whatever I got to do to get out. Every time I got my hair braided, my braiders would do that with the hair before we got there. So, but I'm glad they did because I didn't know it either.
And that's the thing. We have to do what we can to protect ourselves. Hair is, unfortunately, probably will always be a division within our community.
Within our community and externally. But you see, non-Black communities dealing with the same thing because despite what they want to think, we've all been intermixed, intermingled, interrated. It is going to happen. So, like you see the white girls with, oh, her hair's curly, it's messy. No, it's just curly. I don't mean it's not messy. It's just curly. Straight hair is better. So, but it runs rampant. I think it's more detrimental in the Black community. It hits us harder because they're not told they're unprofessional for their curly hair, but we are. Matter of fact, there was a court case in Louisiana recently, a young lady only, and I say only because she lost her job, but she won $50,000 for being terminated for refusing to straighten her hair. But only $50,000. Ain't no telling how long it's going to take her to find another job.
Right, and that won't go long.
And that's pre-tax dollars.
Yeah. So it's not that much.
Yeah.
We are about at the end, but I will say the other thing is the idea of good hair. You know, we used to say, and straight hair was what was considered good hair. Well,
straight hair or soft curls was considered good hair.
And I would always say, no, my hair is good. I said, why? You know, because it's nappy hair. Because I could do anything to it. I could blow dry it. I could press it back in the day. You know, I could wear it in a fro. That's good hair because it does whatever I want. But my uncle, who died when I was very young, he said there is no such thing as good hair. Hair can't do anything to you, good, bad, or indifferent.
Right. Healthy hair is good hair. So if your hair is healthy, it's good.
Yes. But yeah, that idea, and the idea that we put that idea, because if it's good hair, if it's not good hair, it's got to be bad. Your other is bad.
Then you need to cut it and start over.
So the idea that we're saying hair is bad. So we don't call it bad hair. We just don't have good hair.
It's unhealthy. I have to say it's unhealthy and you probably need some treatment.
That's what would be bad hair, yes. Yeah, and that's probably because you put too much stuff in it, done too much to it that is taking away from its natural state. But that idea of good hair, straight hair, still kind of persists today.
It does. It's slowly dying, but as we get more vocal and advocate for ourselves, they're realizing they can't press us back on our hair anymore.
And it can, it hasn't completely died, but yes, it is dying. And
it is dying. I don't think it'll completely die. As long as we perpetuate it in our own community, it won't completely die. So it's got to start with us.
Right, for sure. Well, as we're near the end, I want to ask, you have any other final comments on hair?
No, I said that. Like I said, do what makes you feel good, not what makes you look good to others. So straightening your hair to get a job. If you don't want straight hair, don't straighten it. Do what makes you feel good, not what makes you look good to others. Because what makes you feel good will make you look good to others.
And I like to end always with a call to action about whatever we talked about. And so tonight's call to action really comes from your final comment. How you look and how you feel about yourself, let it be based on you, not on anyone else. Learn to love yourself because you are you. Whether your hair is straight, whether it's weave, whether it's natural, whether it's an afro, whether it's twist, whether it's locks. Love you. And as you, love your hair. And I always end with saying, be an educated voter, because how does that affect your hair? The Crown Act is actually a law.
Mhm.
And so who you vote for impacts every part of your life. So be an
Absolutely.
educated voter. Not educated, active, engaged voter. Well, I'm Ms. B, the Black Couch Therapist, and I am here to help you become a better you, and I will see you next week. Thanks again, Chris.